We're number one.
Jimmy, you're being a cheap ass. You know, I'm like, damn.
You heard it here first.
Right.
Joe Rogan on our podcast.
Right, we're the best. You know, they say people that cuss are more honest. So I'm an honest motherfucker. Put the fish away, Reggie.
It don't even hurt to give birthday.
Not for me.
Nothing to it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to do it.
I'll wear some. I got one on right now. You want to see?
Jimmy and Keith. Madhouse Bar Talks, baby.
That is a bunch of shit, if you ask me. That thing makes no sense.
Welcome to Mahdhouse Bar and Grill. We've got a special guest today, Kenny Greer. He's a member of the Lunch Bunch, and we consider him a friend of Mahdhouse Bar and Grill. Comes in for lunch all the time. He was a track star in the 60s. He's had his own business. He's worked in the mill. He's a veteran, and the Lunch Bunch is a huge supporter of the veteran everything. Anything veteran, the Lunch Bunch is there.
Yep, that's correct.
Welcome, Kenny Greer.
Thank you.
The first thing that I ever found fascinating about you, and there's been many as the stories start, it's always the fact that you ran track.
I did.
And, you know, I watch you walk around and you don't seem very fast when you're coming through here anymore.
Hey, I'm not 17 years old either.
When did you stop running?
In college, I injured my Achilles tendon. I ran 1 year track, 1 year cross country, and then I injured my Achilles tendon, and that ended my competitive running.
Did you run after that, though, just to run, just because you liked it?
I did, but not on a competitive level. Didn't run a lot because then I developed flat feet, so fallen arches. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So now I do a lot of hiking, a lot of walking now, no running.
Oh, really? You still walk? And
Oh,
still
yeah.
Go? Oh, yeah. Well, that's why you're in great shape. That does it usually all the time.
That helps.
So when you were running, you ran cross country, you said?
I ran track and cross country.
And
1962, I was a member of the Amherst Still cross country state championship team.
what's the difference between cross country and track?
Well, track, you run on a track.
Well, no, I understand.
Cross country, you run out in fields and
so
hills.
it's not considered track then?
No.
Okay.
Two separate sports.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
I always assumed that it was just a version of track, cross country.
No, it's not.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
But they're kind of interconnected. You run cross country in the fall. In the spring, you run track.
Oh, okay. Did you play any other sports?
I played baseball.
Really?
Yeah.
That was when baseball was something special to play, huh?
So I played 1 year at Marinell Still. I was a third baseman. I thought I was pretty good, but evidently not good enough. So I didn't play that often.
Not good enough for what?
No. So then that's when I decided to go out for track. I ran 2 years of track, my junior year and my senior year. My junior year, I ran sprints and the relays. And then my senior year, I ran the 440, 880, and the mile relay.
And you got some medals, huh?
I was state champion, yes.
State champion?
Yeah, I was undefeated in the half mile in the state of Ohio.
I told you that didn't count because that was before black people ran. And then you showed me a picture of the black guy in second place.
That's right.
Did you guys feel that way back then? Like nowadays, like I've grown up where black people athletes are so much better than us. I mean, they really are 90% of the time. Was it like that in the 60s? Did you feel that way back then?
Well, today, it was a big advantage today as far as track. Back in my day, we had a 4-lane center track at Amherst Steel. And when I ran track, when I won state, that's the last year Ohio State at the shoe had a center track. After that, they had all-lane tracks, 9-lane track.
So you ran at the shoe?
I ran at the shoe. Last year, I ran at the shoe in one state. That's the last year they had a center track. And now they have all-weather tracks. Even Amherst still has all-weather track now. But again, when I ran, they had a 4-lane center track. It wasn't even level.
Yeah.
That's pretty antiquated.
It'll get your ankles bad, huh?
Well, you don't want to fall down, let's put it that way.
Well, they have more give now too. That track like has, when I was in high school, I remember there was a mix. Like you would go to certain places that wouldn't have, like Southview, we had it, where the asphalt or whatever is soft. Like it just felt spongy a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's what they call all-weather track.
That's the all-weather.
Same thing. That's rubbery, yeah.
Yeah, rubbery?
Yeah.
Is there rubber actually in the asphalt?
I can't tell exactly what's in it, but it's kind of bouncy.
Yeah, so I would think that would be less abusive on your body.
Oh, big time, yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
But so then after running track and dominating that, assume you graduated high school, right?
I did.
Back then it wasn't a big importance like they got in my day.
Well, it was always important to graduate from high school.
Well, that people didn't do it as often. Well, I think the graduation rate was lower in the 60s. I think I'd have to look at to guarantee that, but I think I heard that.
I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
I think that it was lower in the 60s, but it's a hippie free love. That was a weird time to be in the.
Yeah, it was. Country's in turmoil. A lot of discrimination going on, and Vietnam War.
Were you a hippie?
My wife was.
Your wife was a hippie.
She was a hippie.
You married a hippie, but you weren't a hippie?
I married a hippie. Yes, I did.
I was born from two hippies, so I mean, it is what it is.
There you go.
Peace, love, and hair
That's
grease.
Right.
What did you think of the hippies back then? Like, what did you like? Because I when I think of the 60s, and I only have like my parents, you know what I mean, look at it, and they were hippies. I mean, they were 100% hippies. What was it like to not be a hippie back then?
Well, I guess the reason I was not, as I said, I graduated in 1963, then I went to college on an athletic scholarship. And back then, as far as the drugs go, marijuana was a big deal back in the early 60s. And then other drugs came along. But, people started smoking pot and free love, make love, not war. And that was pretty common back in those days. So but I didn't get involved in it because I was athletic. I want to stay in shape. And I did, even though I didn't run a lot anymore as far as competitively.
Did you think less of the hippies, like the people that were hippies?
No, I didn't. I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh, you did? Okay. I'm curious. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what it would have been like to be in that era. And like,
in fact, I met my wife at Lincoln Park. You're too young to remember Lincoln Park. Is it?
My uncle actually ran that for a little while, but I know Lincoln Park. Yeah, it became Chances, and then it was the Flying Machine after that.
Yeah, I don't know that, but anyway, that was a place to go back in the day. That and Beaver Park.
Yeah,
in the summertime. Anyway, I met my wife there, and she was wearing bell bottoms, and I can still visualize her now wearing bell bottoms. And I fell in love with her. Didn't know her.
Hip huggers too.
What's that?
Hip huggers and bell bottom. Were they the hip hugger? Yeah, those were sexy. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
those
they were
sexy.
Very cool. So hey, I was a lucky guy. She's a beautiful lady.
I will take your word for it.
Yeah, well,
I wasn't around to see it.
Yeah. Well.
I have you brought her in here? Or is that the one? Have I ever seen her? Or?
No.
Okay.
No, she passed away 2012. No, not 2012. Let me think. I've had 3 ladies in my life. I was married to Diane, a hippie lady, for 27 years. And she got in a really bad car accident at the intersection of 113 and Baumhart Road. Life flighted to Metro in Cleveland. After that, her health just deteriorated, and she eventually died, passed away.
Like how long after the accident? Like, did she come home?
Yeah. Well, she was in the hospital probably a good 30 days. She was in pretty bad shape.
And then just from complications.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm sorry to hear. I didn't know that.
Yeah, brain injuries, and it was sad. So
wow.
She kind of wasted away. But
how old was she?
Oh, boy. She was in the early 60s.
Wow.
I'm an old guy.
Yeah, no, I know. But, I mean, that's young. I mean, that's fairly young. I mean, early 60s is fairly young, especially if you lived a good life. And
yeah, we did. And, we own a small farm in Wakeman, probably about 10 acres. She loved animals. Because
Because she was a hippie.
She was a hippie.
My mom's the same way. She's got chickens.
Yeah.
She's had goats over the.
Well, we started out with horses, and then she wanted to get a goat. So she got one goat. She said, well, a goat needs another goat for companionship. Eventually, we had 20 goats.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
We milked 2 or 3 of them, and yeah, so it was pretty cool. Garden, we had a garden, lived off the land pretty much.
So did you know her prior to getting in the military?
Yes.
You did? How'd she feel about that?
Well, I'm patriotic. I don't want to say. She was not a happy camper.
Yeah, I'm sure she wasn't. No,
Yeah.
not if she was a hippie.
No. She,
And by the way, the hippies were right. We shouldn't have been, involved in those wars at that time.
they were right. Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, she was right to say that. I mean,
yeah.
being it's not. When you're right, you're right. I mean, that's it's like they say, if it's proven, it's not a conspiracy anymore. You know what I mean? And when you're right, you're right. They were right. So
back then, nobody knew what was going on.
Not really, no.
As an 18-year-old, we were all draft bait. We pretty much said we're going to get drafted. Unless something's physically wrong with you or mentally wrong with you, you're going to get drafted. So a lot of boys men went to college to dodge a draft, to be honest with you. I didn't, because I went to college on an athletic scholarship. A lot of people did. Some people went to Canada just to get out of there.
Because you were on an athletic scholarship, you still were able to be drafted?
I had a deferment because I was in college.
Oh, so it was after you got out of college, you got in the military?
Right. Anybody that was in college had a males had a draft deferment.
Okay. All right. So you just, if you went to college, you didn't have to go to war.
Right. Well,
but then you ended up being drafted anyways.
I did. Because I got drafted when I was 24 years old. So, After, right. They said, when you finish your senior year, you're going to be in the military. You got drafted.
Wow.
You didn't have a choice.
And how did you feel? I know she didn't like it. Were you unhappy about being drafted too?
I was scared. Because all you heard and all you saw was people getting killed and injured in Vietnam.
Yeah, I remember, I remember we would run into people all the time, my dad's friends and stuff, that would have maybe like a leg gone, or their arm would be really messed up, or they'd have some crazy scar, and it was all stuff from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then it kind of faded away. Like in my adult years when I was young, I didn't see it, but unfortunately, we start to see it again now after we went to Iraq, and we're starting to see more of it again, like I did when I was a kid, and it's sad to, it is, that's what's going to happen. I mean, it's better than the alternative, I assume, but,
Well, a lot of veterans have post-traumatic stress syndrome too. And
that you don't see.
Yeah, right. They're suffering now. A lot of them, they don't talk about it. Although they're coming, I guess you could say they're coming out of the closet now. A lot of Vietnam veterans are starting to talk about their service now. And you didn't hear about that, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about it.
And were you in Vietnam then?
Well, I got drafted during Vietnam. I went to advanced infantry training in Fort Polk, Louisiana at the time. Fort Polk was the largest infantry training center in the United States for Vietnam. Excuse me. 95% of the trainees went to Vietnam. I was deployed to Germany.
Wow.
And I kind of feel guilty about that to this day.
You shouldn't. You just got lucky. That's all there is to it. You got lucky. God was looking out for you. That's just pure luck.
But I know for sure some of the guys I trained with, a lot of them got wounded and some of them got killed. 58,000 of them didn't come home.
Wow. And a lot that you knew.
Well, I'm sure there were.
Well, that you went to training.
Yeah, went to training with.
Which you don't know. You probably didn't keep up with all of them.
No, I did not.
Yeah. But that's a great group that you guys have going around that does the lunch bunch. And then what's the one's son does the murals? What's his name?
It's Mike Secletar.
Mike Secletar.
Yeah.
That's who does the painting, or that's his dad?
No, his dad is John Secletar.
John Secletar. Yeah. That's it. John Secletar.
You met him at Mahdhouse there.
Yeah, he's coming. He brought his son in too.
Yeah, he did.
He's been here,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was last week we were here.
His son was here too?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
I don't think you were here that day.
He looks just like him. You can't. I knew as soon as he came in, it was his son.
Yeah.
You know, but he's a talented kid.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, he is very talented.
Very talented kid.
Yeah.
And but they do all these projects with the memorial, the park, the Veterans Park.
It's called Patriots Park.
Patriots Park. That's what it's called.
Park. Yeah, John and his wife actually started Patriots Park.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then his son got involved as a painter, and there's 11 paintings, patriotic paintings at the park. Every Veterans Day coming up here November 11th, those 11 paintings will be taken down. 11 new paintings will be unveiled for this year.
Every year.
Every year, they stay up there for a year. They're on display for 1 year.
And then what happens to them once they come down?
They go back to the families or whoever wants them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not sold or
No.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. My VA doctor, Dr. Von Kano, saved my life by diagnosing early colon cancer. This is probably 6 years ago. And what I did for him, and he wasn't aware I was doing it, I sponsored a painting of him, one of the first paintings that went up on the wall about 3 years ago. That's
so it sat for a year and then you gave it to him.
It's on display for a year, and he got it.
Awesome.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Did you frame it for him and everything?
No.
No.
I was going to. I wasn't sure.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean I didn't mean to make it sound like you did less than you should have.
Oh, no. That's okay. I thought about it. I thought, well, maybe they wouldn't like the framing.
Well, yeah, they might want to match to whatever they have in the house or whatever. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, so,
that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, the VA clinic and the VA clinic in Lorraine, and the Parma clinic, VA clinic in the VA hospital, they're just awesome, caring people.
So what was Germany like then during that time? Did they have any hippies over there or no? Were there German hippies?
There were.
Really?
Yeah, I went to a couple of rock concerts. There's a lot of hippies over there.
No kidding.
Yeah, there were.
Wow.
They didn't particularly like the war either.
Yeah, I wouldn't think they would have. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. Yeah. I've got a friend who plays music and he goes to all over Europe. His music was real popular. I guess it's just more popular in Germany and Europe. They're Americans, and actually the group he's with now, 3 of his singers are actually in France. But he is a big deal there. Like he's on MTV there, but here we don't care about him, but Germany, that they have such huge. I was reading his book. He just came out with a book, and I was reading through it, and he was talking about how some of the places out there were right when the Berlin Wall broke, all that type of stuff was going on. He was doing concerts, and they were doing them for less money because everybody was broke. You know what I mean? And he told a story of a young man about his size was admiring his Levi's, that I hope someday to be able to have a pair. And he said he took them off and gave them to him right there,
Well, how cool is that?
Yeah, that's really cool because it was one of his idols and it was, never mind at Levi's. Now you got your idol's Levi's.
Oh.
But I was shocked at how different they are with the rock. That's when you say you've been to a bunch. It seems like they're pretty wild. But what I see his videos and stuff, it seems. I mean, because he's scream music, like it's not my thing. It's like that hard heavy metal stuff.
Yeah,
like it's not my thing.
Mine either. I don't care for it.
But I like Foos enough. He's a great guy. I just don't. His music and I can appreciate it now a little bit now that I know him as well as I do. I kind of listen to it. I semi appreciate it, but it's still never gonna be my it's just so loud and so it's just not my thing.
I think if you're instrumentally inclined, you'll appreciate it more.
That's probably
the guitars and the other instruments that they play.
Yeah, that's probably very
not a lot of vocals, mostly instrumentals.
Yeah.
Unless you're Ozzie Newsome, you can't understand him anyway. Right?
I don't. I mean, I don't. Ozzie Newsome, like the football player?
No. You
Like-
ever heard of Ozzy?
Ozzy? His
No.
last name's Newsom?
I think it's Newsom.
Ozzy?
Pretty sure it's Newsom.
Are you talking about like the metal band Ozzy?
Yeah.
Oh, his last name ain't Newsom, is it?
I think it is.
Is it? Okay.
I have to,
I thought that was a football player.
it is, but you have to Google that. I think,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I'm trying to think. Now you got
I'm
me
wrong.
second guessing myself. I could be wrong too, though. Ozzy, let's look. We could look it up real quick. Ozzy
Osbourne. Okay.
There you go. That sounds
So,
better.
Football's on my mind. Sadly, I got my.
I don't know why in this town.
I got my Browns sweatshirt.
You
on.
might as well burn that.
That's sad. Isn't
I'm
it?
ready to get a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey.
Oh yeah, really.
I was such a Baker fan.
Well,
Huge.
Me too. That's a mistake to let him go.
And then to spend the money they did. But I will say I think that they shouldn't have booed him as he's getting carried off the field injured. That was a little distasteful.
All the fans didn't boo him. You know,
I don't know,
Yeah,
but I know
that's-
there was enough that.
there's enough. It was disrespectful.
Yeah, it was
uncalled for.
Yeah, it was
Whether they liked him or not, it was disrespectful.
I mean, when you get that kind of money, man, people just have you can't blame them. I mean, people are working their butt off to get a ticket for these games. I mean, they're giving a lot of money. I mean, tickets are so. I took my family to a game. It was my wife, my son, and her dad in the nosebleeds, and I think it cost me about $700. I mean, that's just like when you're spending that kind of money, and you got somebody getting $230 million, and you're not getting anything for them. You kind of understand a little bit. You know,
They live in a different world than we do.
I agree. I don't disagree with that.
I mean, obviously they're talented, they're athletic, of course, but that kind of money, well, it's ridiculous.
It is absolutely. But back to you. Let's get back to Kenny. So this farm you guys bought out there,
Okay.
did you grow anything?
I did. We had a huge garden.
What'd you have there?
Everything.
Just so every. Did you didn't sell it?
No.
So just for
You're right.
yourself.
Of course, we have chickens. We had our own eggs. We had goat milk, milk to goats, obviously. And
I haven't had goat milk since I was like 11.
yeah. Did you like it?
I don't remember hating it. I just remember it being thick.
Yeah.
Like kind of reminded me of like the thickness of like buttermilk. That's kind of what I remember about it.
Yeah, that's not really that thick. It's just like cow's milk. But what you need to do, as soon as you milk it, milk to go, obviously, put the milk in the freezer and freeze it. You don't freeze it, just kills the enzymes. So,
Well, I hope my
it doesn't.
hope my aunt did that. I don't know.
So if you don't, when you drink the milk, it tastes like a goat smells.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why you want to cool it down real fast.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's good for you too.
I don't know if I believe that. I'm in the. Have you ever watched the movie Forks Over Knives?
What is
The
it?
documentary Forks Over Knives.
No, I don't think so.
It's it's a documentary put on by one of he was a heart surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic, and he actually shared the office with a guy and helped him come up with bypass surgery. And Forks Over Knives is a great documentary. I always tell everybody they should watch it. I haven't. It basically tells you to eat whole foods, vegan diet, and it's the best thing for you. And I definitely don't do that. It's not my thing. But I definitely think you should look at it and consider eating a little more broccoli and a little less meat. I mean, I believe that wholeheartedly. But one of the things he says in it is he says, like, cow's milk is the perfect food for a calf. And I mean, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, So, I mean, I think goats is probably the perfect food for the baby. You know what I mean? And that's
Sure.
And I think that maybe they're right about that. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, you're healthy enough for sure.
Let me tell you a story about my late wife, Diane, as far as meat goes. We never had any of our animals butchered. If they would die of old age. I can't tell you how many cemeteries we had there. Goats and horses and you name it. But anyway, what happened one day, before she became a vegetarian, well, we had too many chickens, right? And the hens were fighting over the roosters was fighting over the hens. So I told Diane, I said, Diane, you can't have all these. We got to get rid of the roosters, right? He said, okay. Because, well, I'll call my cousin. She lives in Oberlin. Maybe I can give the roosters to her. And she did. Didn't know that her cousin would butcher the roosters. Diane became immediate a vegetarian. She never ate meat again.
Really?
Yeah,
That did it for her.
That did it for her. She's a diehard animal lover.
No, that's she
She was a hippie.
yeah, she was a hippie. Very right. And my mom, like I said, she was a vegan too. She's the one who turned me on to forks over knives.
Yeah.
Although she does love her meat. She's a vegan that cheats. But that's okay. That's better for her.
That's healthy.
It's healthier by far, by a ton.
Gets protein.
Yeah, it gets you a little bit of like corned beef. You usually can't resist our corned beef sandwich here.
No.
When she's here, she's like, hey, I just got to do it,
So how old is your mother, if you don't mind me asking?
She would be, what, 68? 68.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's young compared to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's young, and she looks it. She moves around good. She's
Good
out.
for her.
She works still. So she works a job full time, and she has some land out in the Amish country.
Okay, cool.
And she's constantly out moving in the yard and stuff. Compared to my dad, who's abused his body, because my mom has been more of like she takes ayahuasca, if you know what that is. Ayahuasca.
Boy, it sounds familiar.
It's some real hippie shit. It's like kind of like peyote, I think. But essentially, you have to get it from a medicine. It's like considered medicinal.
So you get high off of it?
You have to get a license for it, and then you have to be in a group. They do it in controlled environments. So, like where she goes, she would go do it in Kentucky. And in Kentucky, you would go there with a group of other people that are going to do the ayahuasca. And then a shaman comes in, and he basically gives you your ayahuasca. And as soon as you take it or shortly after you take it, I haven't done it, so I don't know, but I'm going by what my mother's told me, that you start vomiting into a bucket. So everybody has a bucket, and you vomit profusely. I guess it is like it's bad. Like it's just horrible. And then afterwards, I always say you trip balls, but she says
That's crazy.
that she says that it opens up your, like you purge out all the bad thoughts and the negative energy, everything in your life, and it balances. And I believe her, and I'll tell you why I believe, because she hates my dad, hates him.
Are they still married?
No, they haven't been married since they got a divorce in '79. So my dad went to jail for murder in '79.
Wow.
And while he went to jail, while he was in going to court, he didn't ever got convicted. But while he was in jail, and it was like 3 or 4 months that he went through court or whatever. During that time, she divorced him. And has hated him ever since.
Good move on her part.
Yeah, he was an abusive man. He wasn't a great person. He's a better person than you'd imagine by hearing that story.
Yeah.
Because he's God-fearing veteran. I mean, he's just a good dude. He was just a little like drug addict back then. Now, not today. He hasn't done. My mom is shocked that he drank. Like he never drank, I guess, with her. It was only drug back then.
What branch was he in? Military.
He was in the Marines and the Army. He was in both.
What year? Excuse me. What year?
It'd have to be 72-ish, 73.
Vietnam was still going on. 72.
He went in right at what he went in. I believe Vietnam was going on while he was in training.
Yeah, it would have been. Vietnam ended around 75, I think.
And then he ended up coming out. When he got out, he went AWOL. Or I can't remember which one it was, if it was the Marines or the Army. But one of them, he ended up going AWOL. They released him from that, and then he went and signed back up for the other one. So he did one, went AWOL, got in trouble. They chased him down. It's a crazy story. I actually talk about it on one of the podcasts with him. He actually dug his way out of a jail cell.
Wow.
Like he dug his way through a after they caught him, he was in a little town in West Virginia, took a spoon and dug the mortar out of the
the brick or block,
and squeezed his skinny ass out the thing.
It sounds like a movie or something.
And the thing is when I'm talking to him on the podcast, I'm talking to him about it, and he says he dug it out with a spoon like that. And I said, with just a spoon? He goes, yeah, they gave us real spoons. Like, he's looking at me like, aren't they crazy? Like, like they didn't give us plastic. It was a real spoon. It could work.
That's funny. So is he still living today?
My dad, yeah, but he's got a rough life because he's lived a rough life. I mean, he's not in the greatest shape. He's in bad shape. But my mom she's pretty healthy. I mean, but she does but my point was, what I was getting to was the ayahuasca. My mother says nice things about my dad only anymore. I've never heard a bad word since she did ayahuasca.
Kind of sounds like LSD, maybe. Is it like that?
To me, it sounds like it does to some degree, but it's not LSD. It's not. It sounds more like I'd say like peyote or something. Like it's ayahuasca. That's what it's called. If you look it up, it's medicinal. People aren't doing it just to have a good time. They are literally going in a religious type environment, taking it and purging, and then doing what they do. It's not a party. It's not, you know what I mean? It's literally it's medicinal. I mean, it is, and it's known. I mean, there's my mom's not the only one that's done it. That's people talk about it. Even Collateral Beauty, if you ever seen that movie with Will Smith.
That sounds familiar. I might have seen that.
It's the one where he lost his wife and he can't engage back, and they even talk about. They said he didn't even respond to the ayahuasca like that. It was. So it's pretty out there. It's known, and it's known that it works, actually.
So it's something like they chew it and spit it out, or you said they puke it out, or
they puke everything. They just take it.
How do they get a high off of that?
I don't know.
You know, if
don't know.
they don't swallow anything, or it just absorbs into their
I'd assume
system.
Something. Yeah, I don't know how it works 100%. I just know that's the explanation given to me from my mother.
Oh.
And I, at the time was very annoyed that she even did it, because that's who I am.
Yeah. I'll have to Google that sometime.
Yeah, ayahuasca. Yeah, it's
still a research. Sounds very interesting.
It is very interesting, and I don't know if it's something I'd want to do. I can't see sitting around and puking into a bucket. Doesn't sound right to me, but it could be. I know, it's hard to say. It might be the answer that solves everything. My mom claims that you let everything go after that.
Does your mom live in this area? Or
she lives in Amish country, so she's about an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay, I thought maybe she has her own property there, but she actually lives there.
Yeah, she lives there. When she bought a house, or she bought... okay, so my mom, she's a lesbian. I don't know if you know that yet. She's married to a woman now. But her and this woman met. She was living in Lorraine. She had a house in Lorraine. And there was a campsite down there for all women. It was basically for women only, no men allowed. And they decided to sell off. Well, each person that would go there owned a portion of it. Like they would buy an acre, And her girlfriend that she met down there decided to buy up some of the other lands and put theirs lands together. And they ended up building a house. They basically put a basement up and had a shed with a loft put in, and then went in and framed it all up, and she just moved. Because at that time, she had lost her job. Lorraine Products had closed. She used to work at Lorraine Products, and they had closed or changed everything, and so she actually didn't know what she was going to do. My grandmother died. My grandma left her that house, and so she just sold that house, and that's what she did, I guess.
Sounds like she's living like the Amish. Living off the land. Does she have a big garden and that type of thing?
They usually keep a decent sized garden. She doesn't live like the Amish by any means, but
she has a vehicle then.
Oh yeah, she has
not a horse and buggy.
Yeah, she's got a couple vehicles. Yeah, she's got a brand new. She just had a Cadillac long ago. But she got rid of that. Now she's got a new Honda or some SUV. But yeah, she comes up here quite a bit. But she works now, so she went back to work. She was off for a little.
What does she do?
I don't know. She's in a factory right now. She when she was at Lorraine Products, she was a computer. What is the heck? Insertion machine. So she's a computer programmer that's what she went to college for.
Pretty smart.
So the insertion machine that they had at Lorraine Product, they had at this company, Booster. So she was working there for a long time. And it's a funny story, and actually it's probably worth telling, I guess. So she works in this place, and it's a small, like, they're working on a shoestring budget. They're not Lorraine Product. They're not Marconi. They're not, they don't have them.
They're not international business.
They might be, but they're not big. I mean, it's just not they're working on a shoestring budget for the most part. But they got a new insertion machine, and they brought this thing in, and they paid, I forget, I want to say somewhere around $350, somewhere big. Maybe I'm wrong. It might be $450, might be $150. But it was a lot of money to them. And they trained everybody how to operate it. Well, my mom was the only one that knew how to operate the last one. And they put a bunch of young kids to teach them how to do it. And my mom is stressing. She's calling me, and I don't get it. I don't understand. These kids are just picking it up. I'm done. You know what I mean? She's freaking out. Well, then the time came. They turned them loose on the machine. Well, these kids didn't know shit. They just kept saying, They didn't know nothing. My mom was the only one who actually knew how to run the machine.
So she had to teach them.
No, so now they're working her like freaking 14-hour days and everything else. She's exhausted. She's tired. They're giving her shit about listening to her books because she does recorded books on her tape deck. And she's at this time only about 59. So she's not.
Well, she's still young. Not
ready to retire yet, really, And they call them into their, room, their, why did the words escape me? I need to take my mint. They call them into the where they talk to them. They basically come up, they're on stage. They're telling them, look, this is what's going on with the company. These are the new rules. There's going to be X amount of things, maybe mandatory overtime, whatever the things are. And they say to them, if you don't like it, then you can leave. And my mother picked up her purse, walked out.
Wow. Good for her.
And she called me freaking out on her way home. She's like, oh my God, I just quit my job. What did I do? She's freaking out, But they're abusing the shit out of her. They're working the hell out of her. She's constantly going.
Well, she did the right thing.
And she walked. Well, she's a legend. I mean, she goes to the Walmart, and people always are like, "Oh, they just love it." She's a legend, and she went to work for another factory and whatever. She's happy. She's making more money now than she's ever made in her life, as far as that. Plus, she's still getting Social Security. So,
good for her.
Yeah, but it was a moment in time where that drive home, she's going, "What the hell did I do?"
Well, it sounds like it was for the better for her.
Yeah,
get a different job.
I get it from my mom. My mom definitely. Between my mom and dad, there's no chance you're going to get me to walk the line. No chance. But so, anyways, yeah, that's her story. Back to you and you. We went to the farm. So then, what'd you do for a living?
Well,
because you went to college. You said.
Well, what happened when I got out of service? I thought I talked to somebody today downstairs about this, and I don't know if I just mentioned that to you also. What happened, I lost my job at U.S. Steel, like thousands of other people did. That was probably about 1981, 1982.
You probably worked with my grandfather with my same name, James F. Tucker.
Well, there's thousands of people there at one time. Who knows? But I worked in a laboratory, and then I lost my job.
What's a laboratory?
You analyze steel and iron,
like X-ray it and stuff.
Yeah, okay. I worked in the electronic part of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, spectrometers, that type equipment, all electronic. Air conditioning, which
sounds like a good job.
It was a good job. It was a really good job. Made good money. Last year I think it was 1979. I made $40-some thousand. So
pretty good money back then.
Pretty good money back then, yeah. But as I said, it was major cutbacks. We were the first to go. Probably at least 6,000 people went when I did. No warning whatsoever. Vietnam was all over. So so I lost my job. And then, as I said, I owned a farm. I had to get the chimney clean. That's how I started my chimney service business. What happened as I was knocking doors, as time went on, I built my business up. Went to 2 county fairs, Lorain County and back fairs. Huron County and Lorain County fairs. I had a booth there. I generated a lot of business that way too. That was probably 1982, 83. And then as my business started to grow, I had my office in my house. The problem was, I was telling you earlier about the chickens we had. Well, we had too many roosters. Well, one of our roosters, I named him Henry. When the wintertime, we had to bring him. He couldn't take the cold. So we brought him, put him in a dog cage in our utility room in the wintertime. Well, we had an Amazon parrot too. Well, my office was between the utility room and where the Amazon parrot was. Well, the Amazon parrot learned to crow.
The parrot learned to crow?
Yeah, learned to crow. So a customer, that's a true story. So a customer would call, I would answer the phone, my voice would set off the crow.
The parrot?
Both of them. So I'm in the middle and they're crowing on both sides of me. So people say, your office in a barn? I said, no, I'm actually at home. So
my wife's just a hippie.
Yeah, she was just a hippie. That's a true story. So as time went on, Henry, the rooster, his health got worse. So Diane, my wife, took him to a veterinarian. I think it was North Ridgeville, that specializes in birds. And eventually, Henry died. But my understanding is the veterinarian took a picture of Henry, and he has that picture up on his wall of Henry.
Oh, really?
The rooster in his office. Yeah, so
still to this day, huh?
Henry's pretty cool. Henry didn't like me though.
No,
he was jealous.
I was so afraid of chickens when I was a kid, because my dad, we'd go to my grandparents or whatever. And now I realize it. And I honestly, if I'm being honest, I only realized it like maybe 6 years ago. I realized my dad was joking, but it took me all these years to realize it. Every time we'd get out at my Aunt Sandy's or my grandma's, he'd always go, watch that one, it bites. He didn't know which one he was even pointing at. And I didn't realize it. All this time, I was scared of the chickens.
Usually it's the roosters are mean.
Well, he was just making it up.
Yeah,
I think he was just making it up.
Kidding around.
Yeah, he's just trying to aggravate you.
That's funny. Yeah.
But yeah, so the chimney, how long did you do the chimney business then?
And what happened as my business grew, I moved my office to Amherst. Rented a warehouse and office building there on Route 13 there on Route 58, just south of 113. So I built my business up. It grew, hired employees. Then we branched out doing other things. Restoring chimneys, building new chimneys. Not a lot of new construction, mostly restoration. Relining chimneys with stainless steel after people had a chimney fire. Insurance company will cover that. So that's where I really started growing. When I retired, I think it was 12 years ago, sold my business. I had over 25,000 customers covering 8 counties.
Wow.
So I went to knocking on doors.
So you're rich.
I sold my business and say I was rich.
I didn't know you were rich. I thought you were just some poor schmuck. Everybody thinks when you own a business, you're rich. That's just how it goes.
They do.
Everybody believes that.
And I always say, everybody needs the opportunity to be self-employed. Understand how hard it is to make a buck, no less $1 in profit.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's a roller coaster ride, as you know.
Yeah.
Most all businesses are like that, especially small business.
I believe it.
And especially restaurant business, that's the toughest.
It didn't used to be. It's a new thing that it's a tough one.
Is it?
Yeah. From what I understand, 20 years ago, restaurant business was a business to have. But, 20 years ago is when it went downhill. I like in the 80s and 90s, you'd have done well in a restaurant, from what I understand.
What happened? What?
I think it's like food cost and things like that. I believe is the biggest thing.
Especially now.
And I think partly I think credit cards might have, because I think some of them old school little restaurants, they were able to hide a little more cash and stuff like that, where now you're using credit cards so much that you can't get rid of those sales. And, like you figure this place here, the gin mill, when it was a gin mill, Andy was the one who rang everything in. Andy didn't let anybody else ring anything. He controlled the money when you customer paid the tab. And I mean,
Smart.
And I guarantee he put some of that away without ringing it in. I would, if you know what I mean. Why would you turn it into the IRS if you didn't have to?
Only thing I can tell you there, the lunch bunch has a Patriot that is now was an IRS agent.
You were?
No, one of the members of the lunch bunch now.
Don't bring him around here. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
you might want to watch what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is it used to be they did that. And I don't think you get those perks no more. I think those perks are kind of gone to them. So that probably helped, I'm sure, because taxes kill you, Yeah. Even if you could get, and I think a lot of that times too, they would pay cash to some of their employees, but they'd pay them out of that money they were able to obtain without, ringing it in type stuff. I mean, there was all kinds of little ways. The more you get the credit cards involved, and I mean, my credit card, what my credit card fees are a month here, and I'm not a busy restaurant. About $1,200 to $1,400 a month.
Wow,
that's my fees.
That's crazy.
That's huge. I mean, it's an electric bill. You know what I mean? Yeah. It really is. It's.
Don't you have an add-on fee like some of these places?
I have never done that.
2 or 3% they add.
I find it to be
in cash.
They've approached me about it.
That's pretty common.
It's starting to be. They approached me about it about 2 years ago, and I was scared of it. I feel like it might leave a bad taste in people's mouth. I put that $1.50 fee whenever they started adding the to-go boxes and stuff started getting real high in price. I added $1.50 for all to-go orders, and I lost customers over it. I had a guy that came in here and got the meatloaf dinner religiously, and I'm friends with his son, and he's been coming in here religiously since I opened the place. As soon as that $1.50 was there, won't come back.
That's crazy. Over $1.50.
Over $1.50.
It's still a deal.
It is. Even if it is. That's what I told him. I said, "What if because I don't think he would have minded if I charged $10.50. At the time, it was $8.99, and I don't think he would mind if I would have charged $10.50 for it. It was just the idea of that fee for it being a carryout. I think is all that he didn't like, and I'm afraid that's what will happen with the charging more for the credit cards.
Yeah. It's pretty common, like I said.
It is, and it makes sense to do it because, like I said, when you're paying $1,200-$1,300 a month, it's only so long you're going to do that before that's a lot more appealing, Yeah. And I just, I starting to see it more and more. I just nervous about.
You're reluctant.
Yeah, I don't want to tick nobody off, and you know what I mean. That's my whole thing. How did you get involved with these guys, the lunch bunch that you mess with?
Well, through Facebook, and. I was posting mostly when I walk a lot, like I said before, and hike a lot. I would post pictures, and somehow it came up that I was a veteran. Mike Bokulich, who's a Vietnam Navy veteran, was following me on Facebook, and he invited me to join a lunch bunch one day, and I did, and I've been there ever since.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's probably been maybe 4 years ago or so.
Okay,
and we didn't have a lot of people. We don't call ourselves members. We're patriots. We don't have a membership. But probably at that time we might have had 20 people maybe that were part of the lunch bunch. Now we have over 70.
Mike's a great guy, huh?
He's an awesome guy.
Every time I've ever talked or met with him, I've had nothing but good vibes from him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a good person, I think. And he's somebody I'd love to have on here also.
He's very interesting.
Yeah, he's very interesting. He's another guy like you that kind of course, he did a lot better than that, but it's the same thing. Saw a need for something and jumped in and did it. I mean, that's the heart of the American spirit, isn't it?
Yeah, he started the U.S. Sports Video.
Yeah,
and before he bought the property he owns now, he started in his basement. He was working for Honeywell as a computer expert, and he lost a job at 50 years old, similar to what I did. So but he was very electronically inclined. And that's where he started his business. Now it's a multi-million-dollar business.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's
good.
yeah, he's controlling like the cameras at every NFL game, college game. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, it's unreal now. But I mean, yeah, he's an interesting guy. I actually worked on his house.
Okay,
from Star when I was with that Star, we did
Starbucks built it. Right?
Yeah, he built it, and we worked on the house when it got built. And I remember being so like, wow, look at this property was beautiful. It had an elevator, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, I've been there several times.
Yeah, I haven't been there since it was built. Yeah. So I mean, that was the last time I was there.
But Mike is so humble. You would never ever know he had a nickel to rub together.
No, he's a great guy.
So generous, a great guy, and
does he do a lot for charities and stuff like that? He seems like he. I know I see that he does a lot politically.
Yeah, he doesn't tell anybody what he does.
But he does.
I know.
Right?
I know. He's told me because we're really close friends. He does a lot.
Yeah, I would think he does. He just he's got a good soul.
Yeah,
as my mom would say, he's got a good soul.
Yeah, he does. He really does.
You could tell it for sure.
He's a great guy. Amazing.
So how long was the lunch bunch going before you started?
Well, Roger Bronson, he was here today. You know Roger.
Yeah, I told him he's next.
He's nuts, yeah. Anyway, him and probably 5 or 6 other retired teachers started it. It was not known as lunch bunch. Every Wednesday they would go to Ziggy's in Amherst for lunch. And when COVID came along, they saw a need for smaller restaurants, local independent restaurants, to support them. So they started going to different restaurants. And then it just started to grow. Snowball.
So they never went past Ziggy's before COVID?
No.
I didn't know that.
No. Every Wednesday they would go to Ziggy's.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Like I said, they saw the need. Small restaurants are they're relegated to stay open certain days and certain hours. So that's why they wanted to help out.
It was. I appreciate them so much. It's just awesome. And all the guys are so. I've never met anybody bad in that. It's a real good group of guys.
It is.
Just
really caring people.
Yeah, it's a really good group of guys, and they're always great when they come in. I always like that you guys give us a call and let us know so that we don't get, overwhelmed or, you want it to be a benefit to us, not
that's right.
hurt us. You know what I mean? So, and I really appreciate it. I think that they do a great job. And I wanted to get Roger up here. I told him he's next, but he just looked at me like, yeah, I don't think so.
Everybody knows Roger.
Yeah,
he was a teacher and counselor at Lorraine High School for years and years. So,
yeah, we were talking about it. It went down there to one day because I went to Fairholme when I was young. Eventually, Southview because off the east side of Lorraine, but I never was in his classes at all.
Did you graduate from Southview? Or did you?
I didn't graduate.
But did you know what year did you go there? What was?
I was supposed to graduate in '92.
Okay. Did you know Ray Pagan by any chance?
Uh-huh.
Well, Ray was a friend of mine.
Ray was?
Yeah. He was a good baseball player.
Yeah, he was big into baseball. I remember that.
His older brother, Ro, was also very good, especially basketball. They're both really good athletes, so good guys.
Yeah.
I think Ro passed away not long ago. As far as I know, Ray's still alive. His nickname was Munchie. I'm not sure why they call him Munchie, but
yeah, he played. I want to say he played baseball with Fred and those guys at one time, and I was shocked when I seen him, there with all those guys because I forget what I met Fred. I think I brought subs up. Fred owned Subway, and I worked at the Subway across the street at Southview. I think I took because he was playing softball the one day, and I took subs out for everybody. He asked me to bring them out, and I brought him out, and he was there, and I'm okay. That was weird, But I mean, when he's your principal, you just stay clear. You don't want to see him after school.
Well, I heard he's pretty lenient, though. I'm not sure about that.
I never had to deal with him a whole lot. I don't believe he was ever the disciplinary principal. Yeah. We had Miss Kemp, who was usually handled our disciplinary stuff. Oh. So I dealt with her. She hated my mother too. So.
Well, she wasn't a very nice person, was she?
I was bad. You deserved it? Oh, I was a bad kid for sure, 100. But in fact, the reason I quit going to school was solely because they were going to put me in a detention home for missing so much. I was a bad kid. I just was.
A little bit of your father's blood in you there, huh?
You know, honestly,
That kind of sounds like that DNA.
the Tuckers had a bad reputation. It wasn't just my dad; it was all his brothers, everybody. And I when I was a teenager, I felt like that was my fate. That's what I was supposed to do, honestly. And it wasn't until my daughter Alexa was born, and I met her family and just kind of changed and realized I didn't have to be that. I don't know what, just something switched one day. Just went, yeah, there's no reason I have to do that. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? But I always assumed I have to be a Tucker. This is what Tuckers do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Well, you did something right. You're doing well now, seems like.
yeah, I mean, I've always just been, it's pretty common that people in business, small entrepreneurs and stuff like that, it's very common that they weren't the best students in school. They always are full of their own ideas, and you know, that's pretty common. So, and I mean,
I kind of fit in that category because I had ADD. Back in the day, they didn't know what that was. You know, so if I read a book, I'd have to keep going back in chapters and try to remember what I read. But now they know what what it is. You know, they just thought we were slow learners.
yeah.
And quite a few of us were in that category.
And I was one of them.
But we actually, some of us became overachievers.
And I think that's part of that is trying to prove something, probably a little bit.
Right.
But and that's how I fit in that category. My daughter just called me. Her birthday was Tuesday. Went to her house for dinner, and we were talking about drinking coffee because I drink coffee and go to bed. She goes, "Yeah, everybody with 88." I looked at her. I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Nothing." So I don't know. Maybe I needed Ritalin. I don't know. I'm not hyperactive, but my attention span is very, very low. So I have to. Sometimes I will interrupt somebody when they're talking. I'm trying to teach and I have been doing that for quite a few years. Teach myself, listen, don't talk. Yeah. Even talking to you, and I want to interrupt and say something, but I intentionally try not to do that. And that's something with me on the radio or on the podcast. I have to force myself to do that too. And my wife still goes, "You interrupted him. You interrupt all the time." Whenever we're listening, she goes, "Look, you interrupted him." And it's you're right. And my daughter's probably, I'm learning stuff about myself because people have been saying things to me. Like somebody told me the other day, like probably a couple months, but they said that I'm intense. I go, "I'm intense?" And that I ask other people, and everybody's like, "Yeah, you're pretty intense, dude." I'm like, I didn't know that. I had no idea. I looked at my brother and thought he was intense. I didn't think I was. I think your father was for sure. Yeah, my dad, he was a charismatic guy. Yeah. He was, he got on my nerve. My dad, it's still, he's charismatic. But in fact, I did a podcast with him. He came into town one time. Oh, cool. I did a podcast with him. I really wanted to do that really badly. Some of the best views I got on YouTube to date was with him. People just love him. He's just the way he is. Did you learn something about him that you didn't know through the podcast? Yeah, a little bit. I learned more from my mother. My mother told me the whole story on the murder charges. My dad won't tell you the truth about a whole lot. Everything's a joke to him. You know what I mean? Like he has a tattoo of a woman named Diane. I go, "Who's Diane?" He's like, "Who knows? It's a wild night." You know what I mean? But that's not the truth. You know what I mean? That's just how he is, you know? So I did, for my mom recently told me the story, what actually happened. And I remember part of it. I wasn't sure how it went down. I just remember a portion of it. But I wasn't sure exactly what went. You know how when you're a kid, like you remember things, but you don't know what you were, like it's weird. Like you don't understand what it was that was going on. Yeah. And it's things like that. But but she gave me the whole rundown, and a pretty wild story. One that I'll never tell. I mean, maybe when my dad passes, maybe I'll tell it then, but I'll tell it before that, I promise. So was your father sarcastic? My dad is nothing but sarcastic. I kind of assume that. My dad says he's always got a saying. It's always something crazy. Keep It Simple, Stupid. I'll give you an instant. My friend comes in the house one, and we're growing our mustaches, starting to grow. We got mustaches. We walk in the house, and my buddy had a pretty good sized nose. He was pretty big nose. I mean, not the biggest nose of our friends, but pretty close. And he walks in the house. My dad just goes, "With a nose like that, why would you underline it?" That's just my dad. You know what I mean?
Just came out.
That's how he is. I mean, everything was always so fast and just. I mean, he was so. What we were doing one time for Preet Builders, we were doing Vineyard Square Shopping Center. They put. It was right when Moose had moved out of it. Okay. And they put that MedMart or whatever medical. They had it was a pharmacy basically. They put in there, and we put the addition on.
Is that on 58?
It's on 60.
Okay.
It's in the Vineyard Plaza right there.
Yeah, I know exactly. I live in Vermilion. I know.
So right where that shop, when they put that addition on for the pharmacy, and Moose had moved across the street at the time, not to Lorraine, but across the street.
I remember that actually. I was there one time.
And we're building that, and instead of getting the portage on, Paul Preet's letting us use the restroom in the office. And it was nice, it's better than going to a portage on. You got a regular restroom, And my dad's out there, and Paul Preet comes out and makes a comment about dribbling on the seat, of the toilet, Like, could you lift the toilet seat up or at least wipe it when you're done or something, like to my dad, My dad goes, "I'll do that shit at home. I ain't doing it at your fucking office." Who does that? You know what I mean? And there was a portage on there that day, by the way.
That's funny. So what did Preet say?
He just turned around, walked away, and put a portage on. It's like, that's all he did. That was it. Yeah, my dad's just one of those, you don't argue with them. Like, my dad with like a broken hip, limping in a walker, I would feel safer walking next to him right now like that than any other time in my life. I mean, he's just that guy. You know what I mean? You don't. I mean, he's just a scary guy. Something about him, just like it was never the biggest guy. You might have been able to whoop him. You'd have been packing a lunch if you did. But if you did, that'd probably be the worst thing you could do is win. Because I mean, your house might get burnt down. He's crazy. I mean, you don't know what he's capable. So,
I had an older brother similar to him, and he drank and did his thing, but when he drank booze, he would get mean. So he would go to a bar and drinking beer, and then he'd start drinking booze, right? He would look around the bar, say, "What's that guy looking at? He must be a faggot." Right? He instigated a fight. He wasn't big like your father. He's muscular and tough, but he probably weighed 150 pounds, 160 pounds at the most,
Yeah.
Kind of like your dad. So,
that sounds more like my dad's brother that just passed, Randy.
Yeah.
Now, that's the kind of stuff he would.
Yeah.
He would get drunk and walk in the bar and tell him what the laws are according to Randy.
That sounds like my brother.
That was Randy. But Randy was a little bigger, a little stronger, and a little...
Now, how old was he when he passed?
He just passed, so he's same as my mom. So he'd be 68.
Pretty young.
Yeah, he just passed. But he wouldn't go get help. He had a stroke at home and would not go get help. He's like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing that." So he died on his own terms, Yeah. And I think he was sick of being sick, basically.
My brother did too. I can tell you a lot of stories about him, but I'd rather not.
You'd rather not?
Well, I could. Because, back in those days, I was in school, he was older than me, and always got in trouble, and, his name would come up on the news and on the radio. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was really embarrassing, So, he ended up, he had a stroke also. Actually, because he got in a bar fight on Bar and Pearl Road, Pearl Avenue in Lorraine. Can't think of the name of it.
Montezuma or Cavalier Club?
Cavalier Club. So he got in a fight. Pool hall. So the story is the guy broke the cue stick over his head several times, plus shot him the same day. And then after that, he was paralyzed on his left side.
Wow.
So kind of like your dad.
Yeah.
Maybe not that extreme. More extreme than your father. But
Randy was extreme. But according to my mom,
Randy,
my dad's the one who...
Your uncle.
Yeah, my dad was the one who gave Randy the idea, according to my mom. He said, my dad thought it, and Randy
did it.
Yeah, when they got off on their murder charge. Bradley was their attorney, by the way, and he'll tell you that's what made his career. He'll tell you that.
Wow.
Yeah, that murder case. It was actually, somebody got shot coming out of 3-Star. My dad and his brothers happened to be roofing the U.S. Steel building right there on the corner. They were doing a roof job. Dad was a roofing. And the guy got dropped on the sidewalk right outside it.
Oh.
And, my dad and brother, Randy and Ricky and Randy. They're Ricky, Randy, Rusty, Rocky, Rowdy, and Robbie. Robbie died. Anyways, Ricky and Randy go to court, and they just looked so similar. One had facial hair and the other one didn't, and the witnesses couldn't figure out. They said who was who, basically. You know what I mean?
They got off.
They got off, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, they did not go to prison for that. I mean, Randy went to prison later on in life, and, Dad went to jail a few other times after that, but never prison. Nothing crazy like Randy. Yeah, pretty crazy story. There's a lot of I'll tell you the whole story, but not on air.
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah. I can tell you stories, too, about my brother. I don't prefer to tell too much about what happened to him.
Yeah, they were crazy. They were absolutely nuts. They were, that's a whole other level. And I'll leave it. We're going to get ready to get out of here, but I'll leave you with this story. When I was a kid, on numerous occasions, not just once, it's at least a dozen times it happened. I would stay the night at a friend's house. And as I'm waking up in the morning, I could hear the parents yelling at my friend in the other room saying, "You get that Tucker out of here."
Okay.
True story. I mean, numerous times that happened. It was a lot.
Well, enunciated your first letter, right? Anyway, Tucker, right?
Yeah. But every girl that I ever knew,
troublemakers and Tuckers.
Every girl I ever knew, though, their mom was like, "Oh, I had the biggest crush on your dad," or "I had the biggest crush on Randy." They must have been some good-looking kids.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Well, all right, I appreciate you sitting down. I was looking forward to this. I'm glad we learned a little bit about you and a little bit about the Lunch Bunch. If anybody else wants to get involved, they can just come to the Lunch Bunch.
Yeah,
they just where do they look for it at?
On Facebook. In fact, I posted this morning at 3:00. I posted wrote a little story about the Lunch Bunch, how it started, and that type of thing. So, and I think the last sentence I said, anybody's welcome to join the Lunch Bunch at a visit sometime on a Wednesday. Only recommendation or requirement we have is that you honor the American flag. That's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Because you guys always say a Pledge of Allegiance when you're there.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And sing God Bless America. Every Wednesday.
Yep. And that's a solid request. I don't see why anybody could,
Yeah, we don't care what political affiliation you're with. Just show up, have a good time.
Yeah.
And support the restaurants. That's what we do.
Even if they're voting for Kamala.
I'm sorry.
It's been great. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us, Kenny.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.